There we go. It says live on both. We're on time today, which is good. So we'll just wait and see if anybody is going to join us live this morning. And it'd be awesome to have you here. And if you're watching on replay, then thank you for watching. And today, Stuart?
Yes, Suzanne.
Today we are going to talk about, so we had a request, so I might shift this one, doesn't seem to be getting both of us. We had a request for us to speak about, good morning Shona, your parcel's going out today, so it should be with you soon. We had a request to speak about what it's like to have your partner at home more, how we cope with it as a couple. So we can talk about that and how we cope being in each other's pockets all the time.
Cope's a bit of an extreme term, is it?
Yeah, maybe cope's a bit of an extreme term.
Enjoy.
So we had a request to speak about what it's like to work together, to have more time at home together, and how we work that as a couple so that it's enjoyable. And the other thing that came up yesterday that was something that we were watching was maybe having a chat in and around forgiveness. So we'll see what how much time we've got, if we have a chance to chat around that too.
Yep.
So Stu, Stuart and I have worked together. So we started working together before we were a couple.
Yep.
How long ago is that?
That would have been 2003.
So like 17 years ago we met. And we met because we used to work together. And so we had experience of working together, and then I left that organisation, and then we started dating. And then I think we're both quite entrepreneurial, quite driven, independent actually is a good point. Independent, focused individuals, and we kind of
our own path.
Like to bounce ideas off each other. So even when we weren't officially working together and I was working for another organisation and you were working within your own business, we would still like check in with each other, ask each other for support with work, those kind of things. Although we are very, like, we spend a lot of time together because we both work from home now, and we were working together, well we still work together like on some bits and pieces. But we're quite used to now having each other around.
Yeah.
But even when we weren't like in each other's pockets, we did used to phone each other all the time. Like about 10 times a day. Check in. See what's...
we didn't have a timesheet to fill in. That's for sure.
So we've always had that lines of communication together, but equally the reason that this came up is the person was kind of struggling. This headband's going to annoy me. Hey Tina. Oh Tina, I forgot to get back to you. I will get back to you. What was I saying there? Oh yeah, the reason was because this person was struggling with having their husband at home more. And it was upsetting them a bit because they feel like their husband's kind of in the way and they're not getting to see the fun side of their relationship. And I was kind of agreeing with that in that, like, when Stuart's not here, I can, like, I'll run around the house, I'll get it tidied, I'll get the washing on, I'll do all the bits and pieces. But when he's here, like, that seems harder. It's like harder to get that stuff done, and I feel like more pressure to do it, and like naggy, and like all those things.
Plus, there's an expectation, I think, underlying as well, that if you're the one here, you go and get it done. If there's two of you here, there's the dynamics of relationship engage, where well, if he's here, he'll maybe do it, or if she's here, she'll maybe do it, and the like. And it's trying to get that kind of understanding of that kind of dynamics. I think we touched on it last week about communication, about the importance of that, how letting each other know, what you think, what you feel, what your expectations are, whether they're achievable or not. But at least you then know, and then you both have a part to play in doing things around about the house, if you like.
And I think the big element to bear in mind is, like, for those of you who are not used to having your partner there, the novelties maybe worn off a bit of having all this time with them. But, make sure that you're still doing things for yourself, by yourself, and creating this space, because it's really intense being around a person all the time. Like, you need your own time. So, for example, on Sunday night, it got to like 6:30 and we were having a late dinner, and I said, you know what, I just need to go. And I went and I sat in our field for like half an hour on my own with my journal, just to get away and have that time on my own, just to get that space, because it is and can be, for those of you who still have maybe partners on furlough, or or just now working from home maybe, it is essential that you have these different interests, that you have like different groups of friends, that you like Stuart goes and plays golf like 2-3 times a week, I go to my boxing, and we need to have these things to refuel ourselves. Like, you need to fill yourself up. You can't rely on that other person to give you that energy or to fill you up. Like, you need to create that time and space for yourself. Tina's saying she loves her own space. Yeah, and like, that's something I never really used to. Like, I never, I always had to have people around me, or, doing that. Whereas now, I 100% crave my own space, and that's an integral part of my day, to have that time on my own, to get that sacred space and connect with myself.
Yeah. I think that goes on to the next, or onto the point about boundaries. You talk about boundaries all the time, how important it is and how key it is that you have your own boundaries, so you know where you can go. In fact, we had a incident. It's over dramatising the situation, but Susie was working yesterday here at the desk, and I came in yesterday, and so Susie, I'll ask her a question, and she was right in the middle of doing something in work, and then the response was hardly loving, not unloving.
It was direct.
However, it was direct, yes. Tell me how I can say this more gently to you, I think.
Yeah. No, so no, I think that's a valid point, because I was working from home, and it is having those boundaries, and it's like, how can we make this work? So I'm sitting at the desk, I'm deep in work, Stuart's on a call for his work, so I can hear him in the background, and I'm thinking in my head, I could not work in an open plan office again. Like, seriously, how people, like, I used to do that, and I'm now like, how could I ever have coped? But so I'm sitting doing my work, he comes in, he's been on a call, bellowing as he does, laughing, joking, and then he's like, oh, Suze, and I'm like, okay, I'm actually in the middle of doing something, can you wait a minute till I'm finished doing this, and then I'll speak to you? Okay, which wasn't a rude thing to say, but afterwards, like, I felt guilty. I'm like, oh gosh, what a shame. He was like wanting to speak to me about something, and blah, 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 blah. So I did say, like, Stu, is there a way that I can, like, communicate more effectively with you that, like, what I just said, like, I'm working. I was like joking. I was like, maybe I just need to stick a post-it on my back, like, do not disturb, like,
It's the changing dynamics, it's the changing structure, it's the changing physicality of it all, because you are actually at the moment, for us, we are in our home, although we're about to go out to our office next week or so. It's a case of you know, you being aware of the other person as much as other person letting you know they're doing something, which I think just takes a little bit of you know, communication, a little bit of foresight.
And it's recognising that that person needing time on their own isn't a reflection on the fact they don't want to be with you.
Correct.
And I think that's where the difficulty can come in, where like you telling somebody that you don't want, like, sorry, I like really need you not to be here, is not because you don't, like, it's not because you don't love that person or you don't want that person to be there per se. It's because actually you're just in the middle of something, or you need time for yourself. So it's learning how to communicate that with your partner. Like, how do I, you know, let that person know that actually I just need time on my own right now. And yeah.
But I mean, working from home is different. There's no doubt at all about it. And I think it's currently, you know, I think industry over the last kind of couple of decades of trying to look at ways of having different work patterns from offices and stuff like that, and about people work from home. And I think organisations perhaps maybe struggle with a little bit of trust. What will they be doing? Will they be doing it? Are they doing the work they're supposed to be doing? But I think this circumstance which has been through has shown us that it absolutely does work. You know, your people can be in the office and still not maybe be working for 8 hours a day, but they're actually in the office, so therefore they think that they're working. And I think it's the objectives, outcomes, and the goals that companies have set for people at home. They are achieved. However they're achieved, it doesn't really matter. So you work out how you do that, whether you do, you know, 2 hours in the morning or 3 hours in the afternoon or 1.5 hours in the morning. That's setting your boundaries. And I think to get the work done, you need to get done to get the project completed, the goal achieved, or the workload, you know, completed by a certain deadline.
And I think the other thing around that is what might take you 8 hours in an office might take you 4 at home.
Absolutely.
So, you know, allow that adjustment. Okay, so communicate your boundaries, allow people to know what's working for you, what's not working for you, what space you need. Ask for the support that you need if your partner's at home. So Monday was a really busy day for me. So I asked Stuart, you know, to get Lily ready, to do all that, to make dinner. You know, ask for the support that you need, will also help. And that can be a bit uncomfortable to start with because you're maybe not used to doing it. But you know, if you're both there.
The other thing about actually you recruit a lot of for a lot of sales and business development people, and quite a number of these people would actually cover a certain territory, but they would actually be based at home, so they work from home. And a couple of things that came out of the working at home thing that people said was that they want to make sure that their hours were the hours they set for themselves and they work within the hours. And the second thing was that they actually allocated a physical space in their house which was actually a work zone. So that if their partner saw them there, they knew they weren't just sitting there having a cup of tea or reading something. It was actually like a work zone. And it doesn't have to be a huge place. It can be a seat in a desk.
Ours used to be a cupboard.
Correct. So it doesn't have to be huge. But what it is, it's the impact of that boundary that communicates to somebody, I'm in work mode, I'm in work zone. And that's the way that they actually manage to get, you know, maybe all their sales calls or their appointments made and stuff like that. Because otherwise, without that, it would have been nigh on pretty impossible. Just sitting all over the place on a sofa or the lounge or you know, out the porch or something.
I think the difficulty this person having was more just about the personal space of her partner being there and feeling guilty for not enjoying all the time they had together. You know, because her partner's now seen a different side of them. I think that was the main thing. But you can't be jolly like.
No, that's right.
Top wife all the time. You know.
That's right.
We all move through different energy and cycles and how we feel and stuff.
I suppose that's what you're saying about having your own space.
Mm-hmm.
Your own space for you to be you.
So you can show up as the best version of yourself.
Essentially, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Very good point.
Cool. So forgiveness. We were watching a video yesterday about forgiveness, and it's something that is really, really important, I think, not just as a couple, but just as a person, to learn to process and forgive. And as I say, not just for being a couple, but for your own sanity and your own ability to move forward, because without forgiveness there's this kind of energy attached to a situation that isn't positive and isn't nourishing for you, because a lot of the time when we fall out with people, or like even as a couple, like we are now pretty good at apologizing to each other and doing all those things, but that took a lot of work and a lot of screaming, because we both had different patterns and behaviors around if we fell out with each other. So I would want it resolved, I would want to talk it through, I would want to like just sort it and move on. Stuart would like to what's the word? What would you like to do? You like to mull it over and
yeah, think it through, analyse, probably overly analyse, and the like.
Go away on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like more like, go away, I'm not dealing with it, and I'm gonna hold a grudge. And I'm like, no, let's solve it. And he's like, no, leave me alone, won't speak about it. But now we've come to this kind of middle ground where we recognise that actually neither of those things are benefiting. So me being needy, like, oh no, I need to solve it, I need to you know, do I don't know, we do eventually, you know, and then we learn to apologize to each other. But I think like the thing we were listening to last night was about, like, one of the things was about waiting for an apology.
Yeah.
So often people will wait for an apology, but in that time you're totally disempowering yourself, because you're giving your energy away to somebody else whilst you sit and wait and gather like, why have they not said sorry yet, or what is like.
And sometimes the person doesn't know that they have said something they need, or done something they need to apologise for. They're maybe not aware of it, or and so forth. And that's exactly right about the giving your power away to somebody else, even when they don't even know it, is definitely impacts you as a person, impacts you as how you're showing up, impacts you as how you're feeling, your emotions, and your decision making, even from that matter. It's a really, really sort of key thing.
So I think the key thing is to process. You have a good day at work, Ainsley. Enjoy. So I think the key is to kind of release the attachment to the area that you're looking for forgiveness in. And it doesn't mean that you are condoning behaviors or that you are accepting of that other person's behavior. In fact, it can be quite the opposite, in that actually I'm not going to give my energy anymore to that because it's not acceptable. You know, so you can remove yourself and remove your need for the apology and, you know, do all that so that you can take the power back to yourself.
Yeah.
I know there's been situations in the past where you've really struggled, like hanging on to situations or people that have hurt you, and you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the term that where you become a prisoner to somebody else. You yourself become a prisoner to another person or a group of people, unbeknownst to maybe that person or those people, because you've allowed them to impact you in a way that you're giving away control. So therefore, it can sometimes hold you back. It stops you from doing certain things, or changes your path, or it realigns the goals that you set for yourself. And these people don't even know it.
And it can turn into resentment.
Resentment can turn
Bitterness.
into hatred, bitterness, which can then be really self-imploding into yourself and get you into, potential sort of, mental states, depression, etc., etc. So allowing yourself to let that go is the healthiest thing that you can actually do. You can face it, you can talk to them, you can let them know how you feel. But there's loads of situations where people are not aware of what they've done to impact you in a certain way that's made you feel the way you do.
I think one of the really powerful ways for me to process forgiveness and release is through meditation. And this can be really, really powerful, especially if you can't have that conversation with that person, or even if you think that conversation with that person may be challenging, or more difficult. Using meditation as a tool to process forgiveness is really, really powerful, and releasing that energy that's attached to whatever situation it is that has caused you upset, resentment. When we're waiting for an apology, it's not a good place to be in.
No, not healthy, not in the slightest bit. Take control of it. I think that's the thing, and going back to the working from home and all that, is taking control of the workspaces that you've both got, or you may share the same space but just at different times. Realising that there's certain things to be done, tasks to be done that can only be done in a certain place, and so forth. And it all comes back to so many different similar things on different topics, and that's just about having an appreciation for other people, is communicating more effectively, understanding that you're not the only person here in the universe, and giving to others, because the joy of giving, and giving other people the space, giving them the support. As Susie says, giving the
important, and recognizing, like I just thought of something really valid there, in that giving the other person the respect that they need, in that what you're doing is not more valuable than what they're doing, and what they're doing is not more valuable than what you're doing.
Yeah.
So what's important to them is important to them. Like, it doesn't mean like, oh well, because I'm doing this, what I'm doing is more important, so what you're doing can, and I think that's quite important when working from home as well, to recognize like you both have needs, and you both have things that are important to you, and there's things that need to be done.
Yep.
So it's kind of sharing, respecting, and openly discussing the expectations of what's going on for you that week, what's important to you that week. If you're feeling overwhelmed, can the other person pick up the slack for you a bit so that you can take some time out? I think it's really important, being able to ask for that support openly. I know that's something I've really struggled with over the years. I would resent Stuart rather than ask for help.
But I think that's probably because you knew, because of where I was and the business and all that kind of stuff, you knew what kind of reaction you'd get. Which probably wouldn't have been a particularly supportive, helpful, or sort of thing. But that's obviously it's changed because we've lived through it all. We've worked it out. We've realised what's key for both of us, and what is important for both of us as well. So I think it's a bit easier now.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's a process. So for those of you who are struggling, and for the person that asked us to speak about this today, it is certainly a process, and it's not an easy transition to being around your partner lots. We love it. Like, we miss each other. If we're like, we've been in a really fortunate position in that, like, we've never been apart for more than 2 weeks in our whole relationship. Have we?
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks. Gold medal.
So we're not really used to being apart from each other a lot. So
But we can't. But and equally, we said the other day about allowing space. You know, if Susie was wanting to go and do something for 3 or 4 days somewhere, something like that, then my reaction isn't to be, why, what do you need to do? It'd be very much a case of brilliant.
Yeah, I know you tell me that quite a lot. Like, like a couple of years ago or whatever, or when I was writing my book, you were like, no, just go away yourself. And I did that, went up north, spent some time away on my own. And I think that's really powerful and important as well. You are separate people. You have a choice to be together.
Yep.
Recognizing that it's a choice. It's not a bind that you're, and appreciating that choice.
And it's like everything in life anyway. It just all requires a little bit of attention, some work, and input from yourself, and your other person. Eh?
Cool. Does anybody have any questions on Facebook or the Insta? Instagram looks really dark today, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The picture compared to Facebook. Anyone got any questions before we jump off, and then I will save it and share it. And likewise, if there's anything you want us to discuss, please let us know. It saves us having the chat every Tuesday morning, so it was quite helpful. That person saying yesterday, can you speak about this? I'm like, yes, please. We can do that. So yeah, any questions, fire away. And thank you for joining us this morning. Really appreciate you guys showing up. It's awesome to share this time and space with you. And yeah, so it's our Tuesday off together.
Our time together.
So our time together. So I'm away to go and get some waxing. Quality time.
I might go and get a haircut.
So we're going for a walk this Avo together, and get our ponies sorted and stuff. So have an amazing day. Absolute love to you all. You know where we are.
It's going to be a good day on the outside. Make sure it's a good day on the inside.
Good words. So yeah. Awesome. Have an incredible
great day.
Tuesday.
Yep.
Terrific Tuesday. And we'll be seeing you
We'll catch up
next week.
Next time.
Right. Bye.
See ya.